I mean, we're testing it.
Yeah, we are testing it, aren't we? Welcome, everybody, to Unsheathed Sword Reviews, and may you always find water and shade. I'm John.
I'm Vic.
And today we are here to talk about the Romance of Men Surudoi Katana. So, Vic, what do you think about this Surudoi Katana in front of us here?
Well, I got some thoughts, John. I'm going to be happy to share those. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to Romance of Men and say thank you for sending us this and a custom katana we were able to make ourselves for free as review samples. These are the first swords that we've gotten as free review samples, so just want to let all you guys know that in case you think that's going to make us biased or anything like that. I promise you it's not. We're still going to come at this looking at it as if we spent our own hard-earned money on it, but now you know.
It's also worth noting, let me just cut you off, that we did do an unboxing of the custom katana, which we were sent that our girlfriends actually designed, and you can see that video. It's on our playlist, and you get some hints about what we think about the overall quality of stuff there as well. So you might want to go check that out as well.
So this is an entry-level katana. It costs $155 US dollars. And it's worth mentioning also that we're kind of doing a three-way collab, so to speak, about this sword with Matthew Jensen and Kyle, also known as Alientude. So we're all putting out our individual reviews. If you're watching this video, their reviews of it are up also. And we are going to be doing a live chat on Matt's channel. And I believe if you don't catch that live, you can still watch the video after the fact. We're going to talk about this and probably a bunch of other sword-related topics, have a drink or two. So yeah, should be a good time. Please check that out. And we're looking forward to doing all that with them. But back to this sword. Entry-level katana. So if you've noticed on our channel, we haven't reviewed any katana yet. Katana aren't necessarily my favorite type of sword. I like them. I think they're neat, but I like medieval European swords. John, not your thing either?
Not so much my thing either. I'm kind of a more Chinese sword guy, and I'm growing into the medieval European swords as well, thanks to this guy's influence. But yeah, katana, not really our thing. So while we say often that we are not sword experts, we're perhaps even less katana experts than we are sword experts overall.
Yes. So John and I each have like a mid-range katana, different ones. So we have kind of an idea of different levels of fit and finish to expect. But the approach that we came at this sword with is a functional piece at the price range is essentially the way we're looking at it. And from that standpoint, the fit and finish on this seems to be okay. There's lots of pieces involved in a katana that go into making the fit and finish really, really good, making it really tight. And I think my overall take on this is fit and finish is it's fine. It's fine, isn't it? Like it's not great. It's not terrible. I think it's fine for the most part. Like for instance, the Ito wrap, I believe is how it's called. And also for the remainder of this review, I'm going to do my best to try to get the Japanese pronunciations down. I'm going to butcher probably all of them. Apologies in advance. But I know like the mark of a really, really high-end katana is not being able to apply pressure and have the diamonds move at all. These do. They waver around. They don't look the neatest at all. But I also have to try to get them to move and to wiggle. Like in using the sword, they don't move around or wiggle or anything like that.
Agreed.
I think a lot of the castings, look good. They don't look muddy or like hard to see. They also don't look super crisp. Like I think it's okay. I think pretty much a lot of this sword in terms of the fit and finish is fine for the price point. What do you think?
I agree with that. And I do want to say, though, I do think, like, if you were to, I don't know, rank, like, here's a high-end katana and the fit and finish on that and the way that the fittings look and the way the Suba would look and that sort of thing, to, like, a Mall Ninja gas station katana that you could get for $40, at a smoke shop. Okay, I do think that this is above the smoke shop katana, but not by that much. And it's less about the castings for me, because I do agree with Vic. I think the castings are pretty clean and pretty well done for the price point. It's more the finish choice that they took. It's sort of garish, and it makes it look cheap to me. It screams cheap to me when I look at it. On our Surudoi katana that we were sent, that's my honest opinion of the finish. It's serviceable. I mean, it doesn't flake off when you touch it. There's no sharp edges on it, but it does look cheap to my way of thinking. But again, this is, $155 sword that's extremely functional, which we'll get into. So, you have to weigh that out and how important that is to you.
And a thing to consider when you're talking about katanas is perhaps more than any other sword type on the market, there's a wide range in what you could spend. You can get a functional katana for $100, or you can spend $10,000 on a katana. So
probably up even from that.
Everywhere in between. And I think that approaching this the same way we'll look at European swords on the channel or Chinese swords is just like, if it's a budget minded item, it's going to make cut corners somewhere, right? And I'm okay cutting aesthetic corners as long as the functionality feels good and is fun. And to me, I think that's kind of the trade-off this sword seems to make. And the blade, I actually think, looks better than the hilt.
Agreed. Also, yeah, I do think that the fit and finish on the blade is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it is. So this is an Unokubi-Zukuri. Again, apologies if I mispronounced that. A style of blade, which in terms of like that type of katana, I actually think looks really cool. Like they typically have, a fuller or two, and the way that they narrow out toward the top and then swell to like a reinforced tip.
Yeah.
It's a very like not traditional looking style of katana blade. I know they are traditional. I'm just saying like most of the time when you think katana, if you're a novice like me, you think of a katana with a hamon and it has a certain profile to it. And these are very striking looking if you're not used to the different types of blades that katanas can have. Also worth mentioning that this is a through hardened katana. We did inquire to Romance of Men and asked what type of steel it was. They told us it was 5160. If that's the case, then that's a really, really great choice for steel. But this katana is light and fast and agile and really, really sharp out the box, which I'm really happy with.
Agreed. I have nothing but good things to say about the way it handled, except for one small thing, which I'll talk about at the end, which is probably more of an us problem than a sword problem, so we'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, I think for $155 out of the box in the backyard, you're not going to find a sword that's more fun than this. Now, take that with a grain of salt. I've never handled a $100 katana before. I mean, I've read a lot of derisive reviews of a lot of $100 katanas, but I've never handled one before. So it may well be that they're just as good in terms of the handling, but I sort of doubt it because this handles, I think it punches above its price point.
I know that when we unboxed this and we first started cutting with it, we had smiles on our faces.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was making clean cuts. The bottles weren't moving at all. It's a very loud sword. Like the sword wind, the whoosh that it makes is outstanding. So like that can help you figure out edge alignment and all that.
Yeah.
I definitely think from a handling standpoint, it feels good. I will say though, and speaking to Kyle, he says that they've actually kind of come a long way. That this example, compared to previous examples he's had, both in fit and finish and handling, seems to be progressing and listening to feedback. Obviously, go check out his review and Matt's review if you want to get a lot more details. But I think this katana, if I had spent $155 on it, if that's what I wanted to spend on a sword, and I wanted something functional that doesn't look bad, I think this is actually not a bad buy.
I tend to agree with that. And just to go back to my little minor quibbles about the handling. The first is that in testing both the swords, both blades ended up with a notch in them.
Mm-hmm.
We do think that, I mean, obviously it's tough to tell exactly where you hit the stand when you hit the stand, but we think that probably they both encountered various screws that support the thing and hold it together. So it would have been probably a metal on metal collision, which you can't really expect a sword blade that's at 53 HRC to hit a screw and not break or dent
or roll or take some kind of damage.
And that's pretty much all that happened. It was just like a minor roll, which kind of took the shape of the screw that it hit. So that's to be expected, I think, given the fact that it's probably our fault since we hit the screws. The other complaints I had, and it's again not a huge complaint because I mean again, if you make a $155 sword, you have to cut corners someplace. But Vic mentioned we both have mid-range katana, and holding them, they feel a lot more solid in the hand.
Mm-hmm.
There's a feeling of almost hollowness and maybe a little bit too light of a handle for the sword. So that does give it a little bit more blade presence, which probably makes it a more authoritative cutter than it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's how it's supposed to feel. It feels sort of thin and cheap in the handling. I think the way the grip is. The Suka feels a little bit cheaper than our mid-range katana that we've had before.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm curious if Matthew Jensen's going to push this one to failure, because I kind of get the sense that while it's going to, the blade, chipping a little bit like it did, that's not bad. Like we've had higher end swords hit screws and do the same thing.
Probably an Albion sword would have done exactly the same thing, to be honest.
Yeah, but like this, you can kind of tell it wouldn't take much probably to push it to failure.
Yeah, if I went out to chop like a solid log with this, I think it probably would get to failure pretty quickly. I think the fittings would come loose. It's just my sense of it. I don't know that to be true because we didn't do that. I mean, I guess we could.
Maybe in a later video. If you guys want us to see us do it, we've never done a destructive abusive test like that. If you guys want us to do that with this, let us know in the comments. Yeah. Like, we'll do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we'll get a lot more information about the sword in that way, too. So, yeah, tell us if you're interested in that. We can definitely do that.
But also, to be fair, any $155 sword, I wouldn't expect it to have that level of durability.
Exactly.
So again, it's like, what are your expectations? Like,
exactly.
I think this, in terms of a sword at that price point, the fit and finish isn't bad. I think it's okay. I think the handling is really good. And for me, it's really, really fun. So all those things considered, I think it's pretty much worth the money. Oh, also to mention, it does have a saya. Nailed it, first try. That comes with the sword. And while I do like it, I think this is maybe the most Mall Ninja-y part of the sword. It is lacquer, kind of.
Yeah.
And it has like this speckled red pattern, which again, I think looks pretty neat, but it doesn't look elegant, I guess I would say. What do you think?
I tend to agree, but again, I mean, it does the job that it's supposed to do, right?
Also draws out of the side really, really easily and goes in really fast. Like we both have pulled out the drawing cuts just to mess around. And yeah, again, I think it's a fun sword. I would recommend this. I don't think it's bad.
Again, for $155, and for some people that's a lot of money to spend. I mean, there's been times in my life where I couldn't have afforded $155 sword. So, if that's your budget, and honestly, I think we talked about it maybe not being as durable, but I think if you just stick to pool noodles and water bottles,
even tatami, I think
it would be fine. Absolutely, I think this is going to hold up just fine. I think you could cut with this for probably years and have a great time with it.
And I'm just happy that there are $155 options out there if you want a functional sword and that's your budget. I am here for functional swords at that price range to tell people about, and this is one of them. And I know there's lots of other katana companies out there in this price range. At least go check out their site. Go take a look. Maybe something will pique your interest. So
I agreed. I think one of the least attractive things in any hobby or anything that anyone does is gatekeeping. I hate the idea that people say, well, if you can't afford to spend this much money, you don't belong in a hobby. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is a good example of how, you could have I could have a lot of fun in my backyard with this for months and not need anything else. Yeah. So I think this is probably a good place to start.
Definitely agree. And if you watch, like I said, Matthew Jensen or Kyle's videos, this company ran some men while relatively new, and they're out of China. They do seem to be improving, and they do seem to be taking feedback. And from a consumer standpoint, I love it when a company does that. So
absolutely,
I definitely think this is worth checking out, worth the money. Anything else, John?
That's all I've got.
All right. Well, thank you guys for checking out this video. Be sure to check out the three-way video chat that we're all going to have a little later if you haven't already. And if not, take a look at our channel. We have a bunch of videos at this point. Maybe something on there will pique your interest. And if you enjoy all this, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, do all the things. We appreciate all your support.
Peace.